Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. And hey, good news, by watching today's video, you agree to our terms of service that I get to come over to your house and kick your cat. Joining me in studio today, Ray Ora.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Jonathan Voico's here.
Yeah, it's last minute, but I'm out. I gotta leave. Bye.
But wait, this is last second? But most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making this little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. And the way you get a live comment or question on is simply by using our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And here's the good news about this tip link is that you can even still use it even when the show's not live. It's good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you have a question for the show and you're watching this after we're done the live stream, go ahead and send in a question. And as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on our show, we'll address it on the next episode. All right. Want to remind you guys that the John Campea Show podcast is indeed primarily a podcast. So if you need your daily fix of the John Campea Show, but you can't be in front of a YouTube video, do yourself a favor and do us a favor. Go onto your favorite podcasting app of choice, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and go subscribe to the podcast right now. So that way, the next time you need the audio version, it'll be there when you need it. All right, guys, we clearly have a lot of stuff to do here and talk about today, but we're going to get started with a little piece of information that just dropped shortly ago about the upcoming He-Man movie. Because according to Deadline, Camila Mendes, star of Riverdale, is set for the role of Teela in MGM and Mattel's Masters of the Universe. Now, they write this. Camila Mendes, who, by the way, ridiculously attractive girl. Like, do you know she's 30 years old now? I know because she was in Riverdale, everybody thinks she's a teen. She's 30 years old now. Anyway, has landed the role of Teela in the forthcoming live-action Masters of the Universe film from Amazon and MGM Studios and Mattel Films, Deadline has learned. Mendes stars opposite the previously announced Nicholas Galitzine. Eventually I'll figure out how to say his last name, who plays He-Man. Her character Teela is a warrior who, as captain of Eternia's Royal Guard, is responsible for protecting the royal family, especially Prince Adam, a.k.a. He-Man. Now, I saw him in that little Netflix movie he did with, what's the name of the girl who played Catwoman in Christopher Nolan's?
Nolan's? Yeah.
Anne Hathaway?
Anne
Hathaway.
Yeah.
Thank you. That little romantic comedy he did with Anne Hathaway, where he's like a British pop star and she's a much older woman. He's pretty good. I still don't see He-Man when I look at him. Nick Schmidt in the live chat, by the way, saying the idea of you. Oh, and corrects me. It's not on Netflix. It was on Amazon. I still don't see He-Man when I look at him, but whatever. He was actually quite good in it. And that's great. Now, as far as Mendes, I watched the first season of Riverdale. And I actually thought it was pretty good. I was actually surprised about how good of a decent little show that was.
Yeah, it kind of went over a waterfall, but it started out good.
I mean, yeah. I'm just talking about season one.
Sure.
Had this great, quaint little murder mystery, Sleepy Town, a really neat adaptation of the old comic strip. Now, I didn't watch anything else again of it until a couple of years later. Ann and Corey were watching it. And they literally had superpowers and were like fighting an evil Dungeons and Dragons cult.
Mm-hmm.
And in one episode, if I remember how it was told to me correctly, Betty and Veronica, I guess Betty was dating Archie, and they all had superpowers, right?
As one does.
But Betty's bestie, Veronica, her powers made it so she couldn't smash with anybody. Except for Betty's boyfriend, Archie, because his superpower would allow him to smash with Veronica. So Betty, being the good friend, because, homie's got to smash, she gives her permission, you know what, smash my boyfriend, because, you're compatible. Anyway, I saw like an episode and I'm like,
Smash Bros.
oh my God, I have no idea where that show went.
Yeah,
It was just like,
basically, if you watch it from, and I didn't actually do this. I only saw season 1 as well. But from the time that Luke Perry was on the show, it was a pretty
R.I.P. Luke Perry. By the way.
and it was a pretty decent show. And I'm not saying there's a correlation, but after like he had tragically passed, like that season after, I don't know if they got new writers or whatever. It just went zany.
Yeah, it went absolutely crazy. But you know what? Back to season 1, I thought Camila Mendes. I thought the whole cast was pretty solid, actually. I thought they were good. Now, she did that horrible little romantic comedy, straight to streaming romantic comedy, where she plays like she pretends she's an ad exec or something like that. I watched about 20 minutes of that and I had to turn it off. But the problem with the movie wasn't her. She was fine. She was good. So it's interesting now that we're going to see her as Teela. And again, I will be surprised if this movie actually happens. I know they got a director. I know they've got their cast now. I know they've got to start shooting date. I'll still be surprised if it happens. They've been trying to get this movie going for like 10 years. But you know what? I like her. She's not a bad, I mean, it was not the first person that would have come to my mind, but I like her. I think she'll do a good job. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Camila Mendes, according to Deadline, officially cast as Teela in the upcoming He-Man, the Masters of the Universe movie. Do you like the casting? Do you not like the casting? Are you one of these people who's mad because she's not a redhead and you don't understand there's actually hair dye out there? Anyway, whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? One of the most exciting, most anticipated movie of the year is almost upon us. The Crow remake, whoop, whoop, ladies and gentlemen, is nearly here as the world is all abuzz in excitement for the launching of the new Crow. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I don't think they ever should have made this movie. That being said, I like the trailer. I don't think it's the best trailer of the year. I don't think it's magnifique. But just taking its own merits, it's a pretty decent, fun little trailer. I liked it. Whether the movie will be any good or not, well, we'll have to wait and see. But, we were talking about this the other day. I said, regardless, I said on the show last week, regardless of how good or not good this movie is, I don't think anybody's going to go see it.
Right.
Even if the movie's really good, I don't think anybody's going to go see it.
First one is basically a cult classic. So not a lot of people even know the IP.
Yeah, and listen, I'm very alone in the fact that while I like the original Crow, don't get me wrong, in a thumbs up or thumbs down world, I am thumbs up the original Crow. But everybody gets mad at me when I mention I think it's a little overrated. Regardless, we now have our box office projections.
Oh.
For the opening weekend of The Crow.
Okay. Oh, so that's not bad. I mean, at least
Can it come close to the 200 million of Deadpool and Wolverine?
It beats Borderlands. That's all you need.
Well, here we go. Slash Film said the following. The long-awaited reimagining of James O'Barr's graphic novel is looking at an opening weekend in the $7.5 to $11 million range per Box Office Theory. That's not great for a movie with a production budget in the $50 million range. Granted, that's cheap for an R-rated comic book movie. Nevertheless, it's going to have a long way to go to get anywhere near profitability. Even on the high end of those estimates, if it comes in on the low end, it's going to be exceptionally tough sledding. So, you mentioned Borderlands, Jonathan.
Yeah.
So, Borderlands, of course, flopped hard.
The flopping.
Opened with $8.8 million. This looks like it could come in right around there. I honestly think it'll come in on the high end of this estimate, like 10, 11 million, which is still terrible. Now, the one big advantage, though, the one big advantage that The Crow has over something like Borderlands is that Borderlands cost $115 million to make. The Crow costs around 50. So even if tomorrow the studio decided to pull The Crow off the schedule and not release it, it will still lose less money, making zero box office dollars. It'll lose less money.
That's true.
Than Borderlands is.
Math.
Everybody loves math.
Yeah.
Look, am I surprised to see these numbers? No. Again, it was like the original Crow is not as popular as a lot of people think. And then even amongst the people who the original Crow is popular for them, a lot of them ain't going to be excited that they're doing a remake. And while I think the trailer was pretty good, there's a lot of people out there that didn't like the trailer. I think some of those just didn't like it because they weren't going to like it no matter what. But there are also people out there who just legitimately didn't like the trailer, didn't think it looked any good. That's fair. So how good or bad is the movie going to be? Don't know. But I wouldn't place any bets of it being the next film to join the $1 billion club. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Like, regardless about whether or not you're looking forward to seeing The Crow, some of you are, some of you aren't. Are you surprised to hear how low the projections are? Or maybe you're surprised that they're as high as that. Maybe you thought it would make $2 or $3 million. Where do you think it's actually going to come in when its opening weekend is all said and done? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's go on and talk about this, shall we? You know, of course, one of the big stories this week in the world of movies is that Deadpool and Wolverine joined the $1 billion club. Just the 8th film to do it in 5 years, the 55th film all time in history to do it, and only the 2nd R-rated film in history to join the $1 billion club. And it's the first Marvel $1 billion film in a beat too. I believe it's now, what did we say, their 11th, 12th, or 13th $1 billion film?
I think it was the 13th.
They have a lot of $1 billion films.
Yeah, they got a lot of them.
Marvel does.
A lot of them.
So here it is, only the 2nd R-rated film in history. Now, that got a lot of people, a number of our viewers, writing to me in our comments section and at our email address, asking me, well, John, you know,
11. Sorry, it was 11.
It was 11.
Yeah.
We've seen some other people ask this question, so we want to ask you, what do you think is going to be the next $1 billion film? Because listen, Marvel is riding high right now. After riding, let's say, a slump for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They're riding kind of high right now. Right? Everybody's excited about Daredevil Born Again. They just had I got to admit, even though D23, in other words, stands for Dog Shit 23, I would never give them a single dollar to go one of their poorly run events. But the presentation at D23 was, give credit where it's due, it was a spectacular presentation. And on top of all that, their Deadpool and Wolverine joined the $1 billion club. Marvel's riding kind of high right now. So what will be the next film that Marvel puts out that joins the $1 billion club? Well, let's run down the 5 that they have officially coming out. The next one up is Captain America: Brave New World. Now, of course, there's a little bit more buzz surrounding this movie now since the D23 footage came out, getting our first real good look at Harrison Ford's Red Hulk. Right? We got a really good look at him in the footage that came out of there. So, with this being the next movie up, riding high on the Marvel wave of enthusiasm right now, could Captain America: Brave New World be the next $1 billion film? I'm going to say this. No. I think it's going to be successful. I think it's going to do well. It's not going to do, you know, the Marvel's numbers, but it's not going to do Spider-Man No Way Home numbers either. So I don't think it's going to be a $1 billion film. And there's a couple of reasons why. Number one, fair or unfair, in the eyes of a lot of Marvel viewers, Sam Wilson is a sidekick. He's been a sidekick, a great sidekick, a fabulous character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but he was Steve's sidekick. He was a secondary B-level character in the MCU. That's not me disparaging Anthony Mackie, who I think is a fabulous actor. But, you know, I've always kind of seen Sam in the MCU the same way I've looked at like Hawkeye. You know, I love Hawkeye. I think Hawkeye is a great piece of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but not a leading man piece. Even though the actor is, Jeremy Renner is a leading man, but you know, the character's not. And so I think a lot of people, a lot of average moviegoers are looking at this as the movie of the sidekick. And that will take Marvel some time. And I think Marvel, Kevin Feige, Anthony Mackie understand it's going to take some time to readjust the audience to that this is now Captain America. But it's not going to happen right away. And so I think it's going to be successful. I think it's going to make money. I think it's going to be good. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's going to be a $1 billion film.
Do you have a range?
I'm going to target 700 million.
That's kind of where I'm falling to.
Yeah. I'm going to target 700 million. You know, 650 to 800 million, somewhere in there. But I don't think it gets to $1 billion.
Well, if it makes 800 though, there's no, like, I don't want to hear, unless something makes $1 billion, it's a flop. That's not how it works.
No.
If it makes 800, that's incredible.
If it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know how many studios would kill to have an $800 million film? Yeah, no, it'll be a huge success if it is. I just don't see it getting to $1 billion. All right. And of course, that will largely depend on how good the movie is. Mm-hmm. If it's fantastic.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
I mean, maybe 825, 850. If it's horrible, maybe 500. But, you know, I think it's safe to say somewhere between 650, 800, somewhere around the $700 million range. All right. The next offering up that Marvel has coming is Thunderbolts. Man, I like that trailer. First of all, if you guys remember, I thought this was a dumb idea for them to make a movie out of. Then they announced the lineup. I mean, the fact that you had Yelena was great already, but the fact that they had Bucky in there and the fact that they have Red Guardian in there, surrounded by other really good cast. Walmart Captain America, Ghost, Elaine. I want to see her do her dance.
Yeah, she's...
If they don't have her
dancing,
like celebrating something happening and doing at least a little piece of the dance, it will be a major missed opportunity. Only people who watch Seinfeld will know what we're talking about. And listen, the trailer looked awesome. Could this be Marvel's next $1 billion film? Mm-mm. No chance in hell. No chance in hell. I think it can be very successful. I think it can be big. I think you're looking at the $600 million range, $600 to $700 million range, depending on how well they market it. And of course, depending on how good or bad the movie is. But this is the first of the franchise. Again, talking about how Sam is kind of seen as a sidekick character. This is a lineup that's filled with what has been all secondary characters. Bucky has been a secondary character. Red Guardian was a secondary character in Black Widow. Yelena was a secondary character in Black Widow. Ghost was the bad guy, the villain of the week.
Mm-hmm. It's a B team for sure.
It's a B team, right? Now, could a Thunderbolt sequel be $1 billion film? That's a different discussion. But I don't see the first one. I think the first one can be really good. I think it'd be great. And I think it can make money and be successful. Pardon me. But I don't see it joining the $1 billion club. All right. So we're saying no to Captain America 4. We're saying no to Thunderbolts. Both can be big money makers, just not $1 billion. Well, the next one up after that is Fantastic Four: First Steps. Surely this is the next Marvel $1 billion film. No, it won't be. It won't be. Here's the reality. Nobody cares about Fantastic Four. I know that hurts. I know people get mad when I say that. But there's a reason the comic book itself got canceled, because ain't nobody was reading Fantastic Four. And on top of that, there have been several Fantastic Four feature movies in movie theaters that have all stunk.
And had Doom in them.
And what?
And had Doom in them.
And had Dr. Doom in them. And they all stunk. If you think the average movie-going audience is just sitting at home itching their thighs because they can't wait for fantastic, they're not. A lot of us in our small little 5% circle, we are. You guys watching this show probably are. We are. But the vast majority of the movie-going audience is not. Marvel is going to have a very tall order in spreading awareness of this movie and getting people on. They got to put together a hell of a marketing campaign. And yes, I'm taking into consideration how popular Pedro Pascal is. Yes, I'm taking into consideration that there are certain people in our 5% bubble that have been waiting for Fantastic Four to be done by Marvel. But I'm telling you guys, their first one out of the gate is not going to be a $1 billion film. It's got too much work. It's got a number of things working for it, but it's got a lot of things working against it. And this one's not even going to have Doctor Doom. At least not in a significant role. Robert Downey Jr. may pop up in it as a cameo or something, but it's not that. So while I think this movie is going to be great because they've got a fabulous director and they've got a fabulous cast, and while I think the movie can be a success, I don't think this movie's going to flop. I don't think it's going to make $300 million. I just don't see any way in the world that this movie makes $1 billion. No chance. Absolutely no chance. Now, I hope, when's it come out? A year and a half?
Mm-hmm.
I hope a year and a half from now, I get to come on my show and go, guys, I never thought.
Yeah.
Like, I knew it'd be successful, but I never thought Fantastic Four would make $1 billion, and here we are, made $1 billion. I hope we get to do that. But I really don't see any reality, any way that happens. The average movie-going audience is not in love with Fantastic Four. The average movie-going audience has had several bad experiences with Fantastic Four. This is the second reboot. Well, if you want to count the Corman one as the third reboot, but it's already had a number of reboots. It ain't going to be it. This ain't it, folks. I think Thunderbolts. Here's this for a hot take. And I reserve the right to change my mind once I see how good or bad the movies are. But right now, a year out, I think Thunderbolts is going to make more money at the box office than Fantastic Four.
I mean, that's...
You can say I'm crazy if you want.
Everyone's familiar with those characters, so that's got that going for them. And they're likable characters. I know they're the B team, but whenever Bucky gets on screen, people cheer.
People get excited.
So same with Yelena.
To your point, even though they are the B team,
people love them.
The Marvel audience already knows these characters.
Yeah.
The general movie-going audience already knows these characters.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know the Fantastic Four. And so I think it'll do well. But again, somebody give me a legitimate... I'm already seeing the live chat. John, you're crazy. Give me a legitimate, objective, factual reason why we should believe Fantastic Four will make $1 billion. It's the first film in its franchise. It's a comic book that nobody read. It's a movie that has had 3 other wide release movies all come out and they all sucked and the audience has a bad taste in their mouth for it. Give me a solid, legit, and point me to a Pedro Pascal movie that made $1 billion.
If there's a slight chance Robert Downey Jr. makes his first appearance as Doom in this film, there's a chance it may get close.
Not if it's only a cameo.
But I'm just saying, just thought of everyone witnessing him.
Yeah, that
in this
could change things, right? Like
Right.
if they suddenly announce in 6 months and they put out a trailer and Robert Downey Jr. is featured in the trailer as Dr. Doom, that could change the narrative.
Right. But we don't know that.
That's not happening.
But if Thunderbolts are in the Fantastic Four, $1 billion, baby.
So anyway, yeah, it ain't getting to $1 billion. It's not. All right. Well, that brings us, speaking of Robert Downey Jr., to the next completely confirmed and official movie release Marvel has coming after Fantastic Four, Avengers Doomsday. Automatic.
Yeah.
Automatic. It's an Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Ray, help me out with my math. How many Avengers movies have not made $1 billion?
0.
0. Oh, that's right. 0. None. And I'm going to tell you this. Even before they announced Robert Downey Jr. was going to be in this thing, I would have told you it's an Avengers movie. It doesn't matter what state the MCU's in at that time. Nothing else matters. It's the next Avengers movie. It will be $1 billion. And now, they announced Robert Downey Jr. Now they announced Robert Downey Jr. And as much as the 2% of the movie going on is the hardcore, the hardcore, you see, John, the comics, the 95% of movie going on says don't give a shit. What they do care about is that Robert Downey Jr. is returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, look, you can make all the arguments in the world that you want about why the average moviegoer shouldn't care that it's Robert Downey Jr. coming back. You can have that argument. You can have that discussion that the audience shouldn't care, but they do. Whether they should or shouldn't, they do. And even if it was not for Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doctor Doom, this movie would have made $1 billion. I'm not saying it's going to be a $2 billion film.
Yeah.
But it will definitely be that. And I'm still seeing some people actually say, no, if Fantastic will make $1 billion. Give me a solid, logical argument why it'll make $1 billion.
Hope.
The history of success for the Fantastic Four.
There is no hope.
The fact that everybody today reads the Fantastic Four. And remember, I'm saying this as a Fantastic Four fan. I really want to see the Maker, by the way. But, I mean, yeah, Doomsday. And then, of course, we got Avengers Secret Wars, where if Doomsday is done right, and that's a big if, but if Doomsday is done right, like Infinity War was done right, Secret Wars the conversation about Secret Wars becomes a $2 billion film, not a $1 billion film. If Doomsday is done right, we might even start having the conversation about could it catch Avengers Endgame. I doubt it. Avengers Endgame was the culmination of 13 years, 22 films, all that kind of stuff. But it'll be a part of the conversation. If Doomsday is as good as it can be, we'll have that. So what's going to be the next $1 billion film for Marvel? I don't think it's going to be Captain America 4. I don't think it's going to be Thunderbolts. I really don't think it's going to be Fantastic Four. The next $1 billion film is going to be Doomsday. And now, that all changes, of course, if they announce a release date for Blade. Right, Ray?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Then it becomes the $4 billion film question. Woo! If that movie ever happens.
Come on.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Maybe you've got more box office belief in Captain America 4, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four. Whatever you guys think about this, do you agree with me that the next one is going to be Doomsday? Whatever you think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that all down, we still got a couple other things we need to talk about, including Joaquin Phoenix pitching an idea for a movie and getting them to make a movie, and then 5 days before production starts decides to back out of it, leaving them high and dry. We're also going to talk about this wrongful death lawsuit that's being brought against Disney because of a doctor who died as a result of allergic reaction to food that wasn't supposed to have stuff in there. And can Disney get out of it because they had signed up to a trial period of Disney Plus a few years earlier? We're going to talk about that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Miracle Made. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Miracle Made. Guys, it's hot outside and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. So if you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. There are just so many things that make these sheets so fantastic. We already mentioned the self-cooling properties for better quality sleep, but they're also self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. So go to trymiracle.com/Campea. That's TRYMIRACLE.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. And thank you to our friends at Miracle Made for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on to this, shall we? Joaquin Phoenix, beloved Oscar-winning actor, and cannot wait to see Joker 2. It's coming out here soon. But he's got himself in a little bit of hot water right now. You may have seen headlines like this. Joaquin Phoenix's last-minute exit, let's bring this up, sparks huge amount of outrage among Hollywood producers. Here's the basic gist of this. A couple of years ago, Joaquin Phoenix went to May-November director Todd Haynes and pitched an idea for a movie. An idea about a 1930s gay romance movie that he would star in. So he talked Todd Haynes and their production company into making this movie. So they developed it, did all the pre-production on it, hired cast, hired crew, booked sets, booked locations, had construction done, booked all the makeup artists, whole bit. And according to the story, this movie that Joaquin Phoenix pitched them to make 5 days before production was to start, Joaquin Phoenix walked out. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter, said this. When Joaquin Phoenix abruptly exited Todd Haynes' gay romance movie last week, just 5 days before production, the actor set off a tidal wave that has now rippled far past the confines of its Guadalajara, Mexico set. There's been a huge amount of outrage, says one studio exec, of the reaction from Hollywood producers to Phoenix's last-minute departure, which left cast and crew in a lurch, and now opens the actor up to the possibility of legal action, according to sources. The departure was particularly surprising, given that Phoenix is the one who brought the project to Haynes and his longtime producers at Killer Films, headed by Christine Vachon and Pamela Koffler. So, again, Joaquin Phoenix has this idea for a movie. He takes it to Todd Haynes, and they decide, hey, if you'll do it, you're saying you're going to star in it, Oscar winner, Joker, Joaquin Phoenix, yeah, we'll do this movie. And in that time, they spent millions of dollars developing, pre-producing, hiring. There are crew people, hundreds of crew people, who have booked off the next couple of months to work on this movie that got greenlit because Joaquin Phoenix brought it to them and was going to star Oscar winner Joaquin Phoenix.
Well, now it's Joaquin Phoenix.
And now it's Walkout Phoenix. Now it's Walkout Phoenix. Now look, we don't know all the details about why Joaquin left. The only reports that are out there saying he got cold feet. That's literally the term that's being used in all the trades. He got cold feet. He got nervous about doing the role. Now, this isn't the first time this has happened with Joaquin Phoenix. The Hollywood Reporter also said this. In recent days, the drumbeat has gotten louder among the producer community for legal action to be brought against Phoenix, with insiders pointing out to examples throughout Hollywood history of actors being held accountable for leaving films without a star. For example, in 1993, a court found that Kim Basinger breached a verbal contract to star in the Mainline Pictures film Boxing Helena.
Wow.
With Basinger ordered to pay the company at least $8.9 million in damages. That ruling was overturned the next year, but Basinger eventually settled with Mainline 1995, agreeing to pay $3.8 million. Others have cited that Bruce Willis dropping out of a never-finished Disney film, Broadway Brawler, that was midway through production when he walked out. After which, he had to do 3 Disney movies at below his market rate as a make good. That situation worked out in everyone's favor when 2 of those 3 films ended up being hits, Armageddon and The Sixth Sense. And Joaquin Phoenix himself also threatened to walk off of Napoleon last minute unless he got his screenwriter, his buddy, to come in and work on the screenplay too.
I mean, he's doing his best Brando.
He is absolutely doing his best Brando. Now, what's going to happen to this? Joaquin Phoenix is going to have to pay. Because there's a doctrine in law just called reliance, right? And it's a very serious thing in law. For example, if I tell Jonathan, hey, Jonathan.
Yes.
You've got a 4th of July party coming up. Let's say it was early June right now. You got a 4th of July party coming out. Ryan Reynolds is going to come.
Nice. I was hoping.
Ryan Reynolds is going to come. He's going to come to your 4th of July party.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee it. Guarantee you he's coming with me. So, Jonathan, relying on what I have told him, goes out and spends more money. You know, hires better decorators to come in.
Dang.
Instead of just, making the barbecue himself, he gets a caterer
Dang.
to come in.
Crates of aviation gin.
Crates of aviation.
At my own expense.
Of aviation gin.
Yeah.
Crates of the stuff.
Yeah.
then I
official
show up.
Wrexham screenings going on. I had to pay for the licensing for the Wrexham screenings.
Wrexham banners all over the
I had to pay
place.
for the licensing on all that.
Then I show up July 4th, all by my lonesome. I go, oh, did I not tell you Ryan's not coming? See, Jonathan spent all that money because he relied on what I told him. And that's a very serious thing in law. This studio hired hundreds of people, booked locations, built sets, designed and had costumes made, went through all the pre-production, and probably spent millions of dollars because they relied on the fact that Joaquin Phoenix was like, yep, I'm starring in this movie. This movie that, by the way, was my idea. As a result, he's going to have to pay. How much? We'll find out. The Hollywood Reporter went on and said this. One agent unconnected to the Haynes movies believes that ultimately Phoenix will not face significant career blowback. And this person predicts that the actor will settle for the low 7 figures. So $3, $4, $5, $6 million. Citing his big paydays for his Joker films and indicating the actor has plenty of cash to deal with the situation. As long as they threaten, he'll settle. It's nothing to him, says the agent. So at the end of the day, I think whatever this production company had to pay and the money they paid out in getting ready to do this movie because they relied on the fact that Joaquin Phoenix said he was going to be in it.
Yeah.
I think that's how much Joaquin Phoenix is going to have to pay them back.
Well, and I hope the crew then shares in that and they get reimbursed for at least a portion of what they were contracted.
Maybe even more so because, again, think about the hundreds of crew people who thought, great, we've got a gig now for the next 2 months.
These are guys trying to pay their mortgage.
Yeah, trying to pay their mortgage. The
mortgage,
next two
rent.
and a half, 3 months, we're going to be working on this movie. They turned down other jobs.
Right.
They turned down other jobs, again, relying on the fact that this movie was going to get made. And Joaquin Phoenix just left them all high and dry. Now, you can make the argument, well, why don't they just go get another actor? Okay, you can make that argument. But here's the point. They only greenlit this thing because they believed Joaquin Phoenix was going to be the lead of it. They only spent those millions of dollars because Joaquin Phoenix himself brought them the idea and said he was going to star in this
and
movie.
there again, then does he hold pull the strings though? Because he brought that to them. Does he have the rights to it? So then maybe they can't even move forward without him.
I mean, maybe they can't even make the movie without him. I doubt that's the case. They probably acquired the rights to it, but still. And here's where it could hurt Joaquin moving forward. The next time Joaquin Phoenix goes to a director or producer, says, hey, I got an idea for a movie. Any producer that's half intelligent is going to go, that's cool. I would love to make a movie with you, Joaquin, but here's the thing. Give me a $10 million deposit.
Mm-hmm.
And once we make our movie, I'll give you your $10 million back, Joaquin. But you nearly walked off of Napoleon before they started shooting. You did walk off this other movie that was your idea 5 days before they started shooting. And listen, maybe Joaquin Phoenix, I'm not trying to trash on Joaquin Phoenix because maybe he has a very, very good reason why he
we don't know why.
We don't know. Maybe there's some real personal issue. Maybe there's something family going on. We don't know, right? So I'm not trashing on Joaquin Phoenix. But what I'm saying is he's responsible for this.
Yeah, either way.
Whatever his reason is, he's
responsible. You got to make good. It's not like a horrible crime, but you got to make good.
You got to make good. Yeah. And I do think this will give some people some pause in working with him again in the future, unless he's able to make some assurances. So now, will this affect Joker 2? No, I don't think so. I think this will affect people who could potentially work with him in the future. But as far as Joker 2, I don't think this is going to have any impact on Joker 2. But, you know, I never know. We'll see. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Joaquin Phoenix convinced some people to make a movie with him, and then 5 days before they started shooting, he walked off of it, leaving them all high and dry. Again, he may have had some very good legitimate reasons. It's just that he's going to have to make good on this. However you guys see this, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this, shall we? You know, probably many of you guys have heard about this story in the last 24 hours. For those of you who don't know, in late 2023, a woman and her husband went to a Disney park in Florida. And as a result of eating food there that contained things she was allergic to, she ended up dying. Now, the widower is suing a bunch of people, including Disney, for the wrongful death. And Disney, at least if you just look at the headlines that have been out there, Disney is trying to get away with it because they say that when you signed up for Disney Plus, wait a minute, what? Disney Plus? Yep. Because you signed up for Disney Plus, the terms of service in you signing up for Disney Plus, and by the way, and Justice for All in the live chat is saying he's only suing for $50,000. No, he is not. That is a rabid piece of misinformation going around. We're going to address that in a minute. But because you signed up to Disney Plus, our terms of service says you don't get to sue us for anything. And I thought when I saw how much misinformation and partial information was being spread around out there, I thought we should probably take a minute and discuss this and break it down so you can understand what is going on and what is not going on. Now, before we get started, let me up top say what those of you who've watched me for any period of time know. Fuck Disney is generally my mantra in life. I'm a fan of many of their movies. Absolutely, I am. But as far as Disney Park, if I found out today that Disneyland burned to the ground, I would be more than happy to walk to Anaheim tomorrow so I can piss on the charred remains.
Oh my God.
Okay. I'm not saying you're a fool if you give your money to Disney by going to Disneyland. I just think it's one of the most foolish things you can do. I myself will go once in a while because it makes my wife happy. And my desire to make my wife happy exceeds my utter disdain for all things Disneyland, Disney parks, Disney events, whatever. So Just to put that out there. Everybody knows where I'm coming from. But if we collectively are going to get mad at stuff, I want to make sure we're getting mad at the right things. So I want us to take a look and fully understand what is going on and what isn't going on with this wrongful death lawsuit. This is the things we're going to go over. Number one, first we're going to look at what happened. Okay, we're going to get the details of what actually happened. Number two, we're going to talk about arbitration and why Disney thinks the Disney Plus terms of service should make them go to arbitration. Number three, there's another arbitration terms of service that they agree to called the My Disney Experiences, which is what they use to buy their tickets to Disneyland. That's a separate thing. We're going to cover that. And then number four, we're going to talk about Disney's actual defense. Because Disney's defense is not that you signed up for Disney Plus. That's not their defense. We're going to talk about what their actual defense is. And then ultimately, I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen here. All right? You with me? Now listen, let me also say this up front. I'm going to do this video, and I want you to understand I'm doing this as a film pundit, okay? I am not doing this as an expert in American law. I am not doing this video as somebody who used to work in law. I am completely doing this as a film pundit and giving you information that is the best to my understanding, okay? I'm not giving legal advice. I just want to be very, very clear about that. Okay. Let's look first at the horrible tragedy that happened. This comes to us from CNN. In October of 2023, Kanukpar Tangswan, and I know I'm probably mispronouncing her name. I think I got it close to right there. So forgive me if I mispronounced it. Her husband, Jeffrey Piccolo, and Piccolo's mother dined at Raglan Road Irish Pub in Disney Springs, which is a part of the Walt Disney World Resort in Florida. For those of you who live in LA, the best I know how to compare it, if I'm not mistaken about this, is that Disney Springs is to Disney World kind of what downtown Disney is to Disneyland. If I understand it right. I believe I ate at Disney Springs one time at a Star Wars celebration. Anyway, they chose to eat at the restaurant, the lawsuit states, because they believed it would have proper safeguards against serving dairy and nuts to Tang Swan due to her allergies. The waiter guaranteed the couple that certain foods would be made allergen-free, which the two confirmed, quote unquote, several more times, according to the lawsuit. She also ordered a vegan fritter, scallops, onion rings, and a vegan shepherd's pie. Although some of the food delivered lacked allergen-free flags on the menu, the waiter again assured them that it was allergen-free. But after dinner, Tang Swan, 42 years old, a doctor, by the way, went shopping in the Disney Springs area and began suffering from severe acute allergic reaction, according to the lawsuit. Despite self-administering an EpiPen, Tang Swan died from, I always mispronounce this, anaphylaxis?
Yeah.
Anaphylaxis. Anaphylaxis due to elevated levels of dairy and nut in her system, the lawsuit said, attributing the information to a medical examiner's investigation. Okay. I want to make sure that none of us, in the midst of all the outrage and all that kind of stuff, that none of us lose sight of what is the most important thing here. There was a tragedy. Mm-hmm. A woman who, thinking she was going out to have a marvelous time with her husband and her mother-in-law at a Disney World, ends up dying and lost her life. And this husband lost his wife. So I want us to always not lose focus of that. That's the main thing here. Okay. Now let's get into what all the outrage seems to be about. Because again, I perused some YouTube last night and even some news articles that I was shocked to see how badly they misunderstood what's happening here. And some really key important information that a lot of these outrage pieces are leaving out. Let's start with the thing that's getting everybody's attention. The husband, on behalf of his wife's estate, has now brought a lawsuit against several parties, including Disney, for the death of his wife. Disney, in their reply, is suggesting a couple of things. One, they're saying, as stupid as this sounds, that in the terms of service for when Piccolo, the husband, years ago signed up for a free trial of Disney Plus, didn't even get the service, just signed up for the free trial. Disney makes the argument that in the terms of service, and this is right from the court documents, any dispute, says Disney in the terms of service, between you and us, except for small claims court, is subject to a class action waiver and must be resolved by individual binding arbitration. Please read the arbitration provision in this agreement as it affects your rights under this contract. Okay, so one of the strands of spaghetti that Disney's lawyers were throwing out there to see if he could stick is to say, Your Honor, he signed up for Disney Plus. And in our terms of service, it says any dispute between you and us, and we're Disney, you agree does not go, you cannot bring a lawsuit. Instead, it's got to go to arbitration. Now, if you are sitting at home thinking that sounds ridiculous, you're goddamn right that's ridiculous. It's idiotic. One of the prime doctrines in all of law is often the test of what would a reasonable person believe, right? They teach that in law school. It's not the be all end all, no. But it's often an applied thing. What would a reasonable person think, do, or believe? A reasonable person would believe that any terms of service that they were agreeing to using a certain service would apply exclusively to that service. Any common, rational, reasonable person, regardless of what you bury under mountains of small print, would assume that whatever they were agreeing to in the terms of service applied exclusively to Disney Plus. That is a reasonable thing. And trying to extend the coverage of that terms of service well beyond using a streaming service is asinine and idiotic. Now, I want you guys to follow me here. The word that's being thrown around a lot is arbitration. Disney is not trying to get off the hook by using arbitration. Arbitration is not a bad thing. Arbitration, in many cases, can be a very good thing. Forced arbitration, which goes beyond the scope of this video, but there's a distinction between forced arbitration and just arbitration in general. Forced arbitration comes out of the devil's butthole. Just arbitration in and of itself, though, can be a very good thing. There's advantages to arbitration. It saves the taxpayers money because it's not done in a court with a jury and with a judge and all that kind of stuff. It's usually done much quicker. It's much less expensive for the people involved. It moves along a lot faster. You mutually, both sides get to choose who the arbitrator is. And it basically says this. Arbitration becomes a binding thing. Let's say Ray and I have an argument over this bottle of aviation gin. Okay? The Deadpool variant of it. And instead of going to court and spending 2 years in court and wasting a lot of taxpayers' dollars on the court and wasting a lot of legal fees for having to pay a lawyer for 2 years, we decide, let's go to arbitration. You get your lawyer, I'll get my lawyer, we'll go to arbitration.
Let's do it.
Now, our lawyers together pick an arbitrator. And they think, you know what? Somebody who's an expert in this particular field and who knows the parties involved and who is a professional arbitrator, we all think Jonathan Voico. Our lawyers decide. They agree that Jonathan Voico would be a good arbitrator. So Jonathan Voico hears the facts that we bring. And then Jonathan Voico decides what he thinks is fair. having an understanding of the topic, an understanding of what the issues are. The lawyers and we make our case to the arbitrator. The arbitrator makes a decision based on what they fair. Now, sometimes if somebody's suing somebody else and you go to trial, you may get nothing. The jury may decide, no, we don't think the company's at fault. Whereas if you go to an arbitrator, you may not get everything you want, but an arbitrator may say, you know what's fair here? This is what would be fair. And so look, so arbitration can be good, arbitration could be bad. There's definitely advantages to it, some disadvantages. I just want to point out though, because a lot of people are presenting on YouTube and in other places that Disney is just quote unquote trying to get off scot-free. They're not. What they're trying to do is ridiculously so, but it is what it is. They're just trying to get it moved from a court to an arbitrator because there are advantages. It's still utterly ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous.
Right. The premise of because you did this, it has to go to arbitration is ridiculous. Oftentimes, these lawsuits do go into arbitration more often than not.
Oh yeah, listen. A lot of times, both parties think it's a good idea to go to arbitration. Again, forced arbitration, which is what this is another topic. I'm just saying, don't think arbitration in and of itself means anybody's getting off scot-free, and don't think it's automatically a bad thing. It can be a good thing, but whatever here. The notion and the idea that Disney can say because some guy signed up for a free trial of Disney Plus, that can mean 4 years later when he goes to Florida and somebody dies, we're protected from being sued.
Right.
Like, that's ridiculous. And that's not going to go anywhere. Okay. That's not going to go anywhere. No judge is going to believe that this extends to that. It's not going to happen. So it's utterly ridiculous that they're even trying it. The second thing, which admittedly has a little bit more legitimacy, is we're moving from the Disney Plus terms of service now to another thing called the My Disney Experience terms of service. My Disney Experience is the thing that Piccolo used to buy the tickets to Disney World. And Disney's argument is that in the terms of service, when you bought tickets to come to Disney World, our terms of service default to our Disney terms of service, which means you got to go to arbitration. Now, this argument has a little bit more validity because unlike Disney Plus, which signing up to a free trial of Disney Plus has nothing to do with going to Disney World, using My Disney Experiences, which is all about going to Disney World and agreeing to the terms of service there, that becomes a little bit more legitimate of an argument that Disney can say. That Disney can say, hey, look, they used My Disney Experiences. They agreed to the terms of service of buying tickets to Disney World there. And part of the terms of service is, pardon me, guys, that we go to arbitration instead of to trial. Okay. But there's a problem. You see, in the terms of service of My Disney Experiences, it specifically says you can sue Disney. Reading the main paragraph here. This is in the My Disney Experiences terms of service. You agree that any claim, action, or lawsuit, collectively action, arising out of these terms, reservations and bookings, and or all packages, products, and services provided in connection with the reservation and bookings, including without limitation components such as park administration, blah, 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 blah. Lighting interests, blah, blah, blah. Collectively, terms, reservations, and products must be filed and maintained exclusively in any court in Orange County, Florida. Having subject matter jurisdiction, you also hereby submit to the personal jurisdiction for such courts. Basically, the reason this one ain't going to work is because even though they say the My Disney Experiences terms of service also includes the general Disney terms of service, which calls for arbitration, the actual terms of service of My Disney Experiences contradicts the general Disney terms. The general Disney term says you can't sue us for anything, we got to go to arbitration. But the actual terms of service of My Disney Experience says, yep, you can sue us. It just says you got to sue us in Orange County, Florida. That's the only stipulation, which is, by the way, where Piccolo is filing his lawsuit. So is this thing about the Disney Plus terms of service going to hold up? No. I mean, I obviously don't know all the details, but from what I have in front of me, and there may be other things that I'm not aware of, but there's no way this gets granted. No way this gets granted. And then as far as the My Disney Experiences terms and conditions, sure, it refers to the general Disney terms and conditions, but the specific terms and conditions of My Disney Experience says that you can sue Disney as long as the lawsuit is filed in Orange County, Florida. And they've done that. So, number one, we had a horrible tragedy. Number two, Disney is, and remember, I could piss on their rotting grave for all I care, but Disney's not trying to get off scot-free. They're trying to get it moved to arbitration. Point four, their excuse for getting it to arbitration because you signed up to Disney Plus, I cannot see any judge granting that. And then the final point, Disney trying to use the My Disney Experiences terms of service also hurts them because it contradicts the general terms of service of Disney by saying, yes, you can sue us in Orange County, Florida. All right. But there is one big argument. There is one big piece of information that the vast majority of these angry, outrage, clickbait, well, it wasn't clickbait, but the angry outrage videos about Disney is evil and all this kind of stuff because of what they're doing here. There is one major piece of information most of those people are leaving out. And here's the piece of information they're leaving out. It wasn't Disney's restaurant. Where this tragedy happened wasn't Disney's restaurant. They don't own that restaurant, and they don't operate that restaurant. The restaurant leases property from Disney so they can have their business there in Disney Springs. But Disney does not own that restaurant, and Disney doesn't run the restaurant. They have nothing to do with what happens inside the restaurant. Disney put out a statement to explain why they were trying to get this moved to arbitration, all that kind of stuff. The Disney official statement is this: "We are deeply saddened by the family's loss and understand their grief. Given that this restaurant is neither owned or operated by Disney, we are merely trying to defend ourselves against the plaintiff's attorney's attempt to include us in their lawsuit against the restaurant." I think this is a very, very important piece of information that people aren't talking about. Because when you look at a lot of those articles and a lot of those outrages, people are saying it's a Disney restaurant that she died in. It wasn't a Disney restaurant that she died in. It was a restaurant called Ralligan Road Irish Pub that was independently owned and independently run. That is not run by Disney. It is not owned by Disney. But it is on their property.
Yeah, that's the question I have. Like,
now, here's where it gets complicated.
yeah, they're the property owners.
Because Disney did not own this restaurant and had nothing to do with running that restaurant and had nothing to do with that woman being given contaminated food with allergens, does that automatically mean Disney should get off scot-free? It's complicated. Because on one hand, they do own the property that this tragedy took place on, right? They do own the property that the tragedy took place on. And there is precedent in law where, under a similar circumstance, the owner of the property, again, under certain circumstances, can also be held liable.
Right.
and be responsible for damages.
Yeah. Not for the full extent, but yeah, there is
There is
does
precedent for
extend.
that. However, there is also a lot of precedent when the owner of a property is not held liable. For example, let's take Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pretty close facsimile. Let's say Jonathan owns a house
Yeah.
and he decides to rent it out on Airbnb. Ray rents the house
I had a bad feeling about him.
for a weekend, right? Ray decides to rent the house for the weekend, for a week, let's say. Now, Jonathan lays out rules. Hey, no loud noise after 11 o'clock at night, out of courtesy to my neighbors.
No ketamine parties.
No ketamine party, no big parties at all. Like, don't damage anything.
Right.
They set out rules and regulations. So Jonathan leaves, Ray rents the house. And the first thing Ray does, as Ray will do, he buys 5 grams of Coke
Yep.
and 3 hookers
Yep.
to come over to the house. Then he gives bad cocaine to one of the hookers, and the hooker ODs and dies.
Yep.
The question is, will the sex worker's parents have a case to make against Jonathan because Jonathan owned the house? Generally speaking, in law, in the cases that have come up regarding situations like this, where an Airbnb, somebody rents out their house to Airbnb and a person who rents the house breaks laws there or, harms somebody, generally speaking, the house owner is not held liable. I read this, unless generally, I brought this up. Generally, if a renter of an Airbnb house breaks the law or is liable for other incidents, the owner of the property is not directly liable for the renter's illegal actions. The liability typically depends on the following factors. Did Jonathan know Ray was breaking the law? If Jonathan knew Ray was having coke parties and bringing over sex workers, then Jonathan could be held reliable.
Yeah. What if he gave me the black book of the.
Here's where you get all the best
How
sex
do you
workers,
contact-
Ray.
Yeah. How
This
to
is where you get
contact-
all the best cocaine, right?
Yeah.
Now, if Jonathan knew that was happening, that's different. Or
I just set it on the table. I'm just saying, this is just here. That's all I'm saying.
Jonathan can be held liable if he did nothing to screen who his upcoming renter was. Like if he didn't even bother to look that,
Yeah.
Ray's middle name was I love coke and whores. Right? But if he does, he looks at the credit
Okay,
score.
it raised a red flag, but
Yeah, raise the red flag.
I moved on.
But he looked at the credit score. He looked at, was there any past incident of history with Airbnb rentals with Ray? If he did all that, he's fine. So basically speaking, are there times that the property owner can be held liable? Yes, depending on the circumstances. Are there times when the property owner is not held liable because of the actions of somebody else who's renting the property does? Yes, depending on the circumstances. So again, Disney's defense here is not that, nah, you signed up for Disney Plus, that's our defense. That's not their defense. Their defense is, whether or not it works or not, we'll wait and see. Disney's claim here is that we don't own the restaurant that this tragedy happened in. We didn't run the restaurant that this tragedy happened in. We're landlords. We own that property, but these other people, the Irish pub, they own their restaurant. They run the restaurant.
Sure, blame it
They're
on
the
the
ones
Irish.
who had allergens in food that wasn't supposed to be there. And therefore, we don't think we're going to use any legal maneuvering we can to try to arrange it that we go to arbitration with this poor widower instead of being dragged into a lawsuit and being included in the lawsuit with that restaurant that we had nothing to do with. Now, again, here's the thing. We don't know everything. If we find out that several complaints had been made to Disney that, hey, one of the restaurants on your property, I had an allergic reaction. I got hospitalized. If we find out that there are 3 or 4 or 5 cases of that and Disney knew about it and still let that restaurant operate, absolutely Disney can be held liable. If they knew that the people they were leasing that space to was doing things dangerously, like claiming they had no allergens in their food, but people with allergies were getting sick at their restaurant. If Disney knew that, and if that's the, and by the way, we don't know if that's the case or not, but if they did, Disney screwed. Disney screwed. And they should be. But if they didn't, if there hasn't been any reports of people having allergic reactions to food that is supposed to be allergen free in that restaurant, if Disney has never received a report saying that this tenant on their property is doing anything but being an upstanding business and running business perfectly and running their business however the hell, I don't know how they get held liable. I don't know. So, is the excuse they're trying to use to get out of the trial and into arbitration because of the Disney Plus terms of service idiotic? Absolutely. 100%. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, and there's no way a judge is going to grant that. Is the other thing about the My Disney Experiences terms of service. That one's a little bit more complicated, but even in the terms of service of My Disney Experiences, it says you can sue Disney as long as it's in Orange County, Florida. So will this get moved to arbitration? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Does Disney get found liable here, considering it's not their restaurant? They don't own it. They didn't do it. They had nothing to do with that poor woman getting poisoned, basically. I don't know. I really hate Disneyland. And I really think they're a giant ripoff that does nothing. I think they're predators that prey on consumers and steal as much money from people as they can. And I don't think anybody should ever go to Disneyland or Disney World or any live Disney event. That's my personal feelings. But I want to make sure when we get mad for the right things. Disney's not trying to get out of this lawsuit, period, and get off scot-free because of a Disney Plus thing. They're simply trying to use that as a mechanism to get to arbitration because they don't own the restaurant and they don't operate the restaurant and they had nothing to do with that poor lady getting poisoned. And if we find out that they did know there were problems with that restaurant, if we find out that other people did get sick at that restaurant and Disney did nothing to stop them from operating their business there, then that becomes another issue altogether. And it very well could happen. I'm sure Piccolo's lawyers are looking into that right now. So we'll see how it all comes up. Again, let's be mad, but let's be mad at the right things. Mr. I saying, John, does the restaurant have allergen warnings up as well? From what I understand in the lawsuit, the restaurant actually advertised, we are an allergen safe restaurant.
Oh, man.
And we have a number of items on our menu that are specifically for people with allergies.
Whoops.
Now, again, according to the lawsuit, they did order a couple things off the menu that did not say no allergens.
Right.
But they confirmed with the waiter, who assured them multiple times that there was no dairy and no nuts in the dishes that he specified to them were allergen free, and they did have the allergens in them, and she died. So this restaurant needs to get sued out of existence. Now, one other thing I want to touch on is somebody mentioned earlier that the guy, why is the guy only suing them for $50,000? He is not only suing them for $50,000. He is suing them for a threshold of $50,000. All that means is, because certain cases take on a different nature depending on what the monetary value of the thing is, he's only specifying in the lawsuit that this is going to be for a threshold of it's going to be more than $50,000. Now, what the actual number will end up being will probably come more as later on. It's probably going to be in the millions of dollars. But the $50,000 is just a threshold. So just be clear, he is not only suing them for $50,000 or for the death of his wife. It's going to be for a lot more than that. Just want to make sure that That's clear. Anyway, guys, this is a horrible tragedy and a horrible situation. And, you know, one of the things I liken this onto, Ray and I were talking about this earlier. If Ray got dropped off here to work today and found out remembered that he had to go to the post office and asked me if he could use my car. And I said, yeah, you can use my car to go to the post office. But on the way to the post office, Ray stopped at Applebee's, had 5 whiskey shots, and then continued on his way to the post office, only he hit somebody and killed them. Am I responsible for that? I mean, it's my car. But did I do anything wrong? Did I actually do something wrong by lending Ray my car when he was not drunk?
Yeah, you gave me your Applebee's gift card.
I gave you the Applebee's gift card.
Sorry. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Let's forget that.
So,
Right.
anyway.
Oh, I don't want to make light of this situation.
You gave me the Applebee's gift card. What did you expect me to do? It's a $20 Applebee's gift card. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, once you get past the obvious, ridiculous thing of the idea of we're not guilty of anything because you signed up to Disney Plus. Well, once you get past that, and that is completely ridiculous. But once you get past that, what do you think about this situation? It's far more complicated than I think people want to make it out to be. A lot of people are trying to make this out to be a real simple thing. Disney killed this woman, and now they're trying to get off. And as much as I hate Disneyland and Disney, it's not exactly what's going on here. I don't know. How do you see this? What do you think is ultimately going to be the outcome here? What do you think would be a fair outcome for everybody involved? Whatever you guys think, and understanding there's probably a lot to all this we still don't know and understand. Jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's now get on to the main part of our show. And I have an idea some of you guys are probably going to write in about this, but let's get on to your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second to thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Gametime. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Gametime. My wife Ann and I love going to events, whether they're comedy shows, concerts, an LA Lakers game. I mean, just the other night we went to go see Ronnie Chang and it was awesome. We love having these new experiences and new memories. And our sponsor Gametime makes getting tickets for concerts and events faster and easier, even if you don't buy tickets right away. Because prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer you get to the show start time. With killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying event tickets. I couldn't believe how easy and most importantly, intuitively, the entire app works. Finding the event I was looking for couldn't have been easier. The way it lays out the map of the venue, letting you know exactly where the seats are that you're looking for, and how easy the process was to choose and buy those tickets. So don't worry if you think you're too late to get tickets to that big event you and your friend want to go to. They have last minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever. So guys, take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code CAMPEA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CAMPEA, C-A-M-P-E-A, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And thank you to our friends at Gametime for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on to your questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
Darth Anonymous says, at this point, should Marvel release the Thunderbolts trailer now that has been leaked? The trailer was good, but my main concern is, are they going to nuke Sentry in the movie, or as he is very overpowered? Usually Marvel likes to get ahead of these leaks.
I think Marvel knew exactly what they were doing. I think Marvel knew this was going to be leaked. I think Marvel even actually kind of encouraged it to be leaked. Listen, I think sooner rather than later. But what's the release date, Ray, on Thunderbolts?
Sorry. Let me look that
Here's
up.
the reality. I mean, the movie is still so far away. I mean, it's not until at least 2025, sometime in 2025. I mean, it's after Captain
May
America.
2nd, 2025.
So what are we? August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. We're still one full baby away. Like if you got your partner pregnant today, you'd have a live baby in your arms by the time this movie came out. It's still so far away. But at some point, they'll release it. But I kind of think they knew it would get leaked online, and For some reason, they wanted it that way. Not sure. All right, what's next?
We got Anonymous who says, just wanted to say that at D23, they didn't show the Thunderbolts trailer that leaked. And we were told to not record anything from the entertainment panel or we'd be kicked out.
All right, all I know, I wasn't there, obviously. We got told by several people that were there that it showed and that nobody said anything to them about not taking out. They certainly didn't take their phones away, that they didn't. Now, again, I'm just going off of what we were told. And what you're telling us is different than what other people have been telling us. So, I mean, whatever it is, but, you know, it's happened. It's in the past now, whatever. All right, what's next?
Okay, let's see. I think this is Ryan, the movie guy. What's your favorite? Oh, no, we did do this one. Sometimes it skips it. Okay, Logan Vaughn. Joined Letterboxd in January 2018. I log every single movie same day when viewed in entirety. After 6 years, I have 1,700 diary entries.
Wow.
That's almost 5 movies per week. You're single. It's cool to see the data behind the movie watching habits with stats and Letterboxd. And that's, by the way, that came off snarky. I just mean you have more time than a lot of people.
Then maybe, especially parents.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know what? I don't use Letterboxd, but like my AMC app, because I'm an A-list member, stuff like that. I gotta tell you, man, I really do love going through my history. There's a lot of Deadpool and
Yeah,
Wolverine.
a lot of Deadpool. Wow.
But I really do like going through my history and kind of going, oh yeah, I'm going to see that. Again, I don't use Letterboxd, but I do love that feeling. That's a pretty cool thing. All right, what's next?
Jedi Master Super Mario. It's been almost 5 years since the sequel Star Wars trilogy concluded. What is your current stance on the trilogy? I still think The Force Awakens is the best. Last Jedi is good. We can't stand The Rise of Skywalker. Still better than prequels. I can't believe it's been 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I generally feel the same way. I think The Force Awakens was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think The Last Jedi had some things I loved about it and some things I hated about it. But overall, I'm okay with it. The Rise of Skywalker, and I know the movie has its fans, and I'm not disparaging anybody who likes it. If you like it, that's awesome. But for me, it was gutter trash. Like, I hated The Rise of Skywalker. So bad that I actually think one of the prequels is better than it. I've come to believe that Revenge of the Sith is better than The Rise of Skywalker. I still think, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones are worse than anything in the new trilogy, but I think Revenge of the Sith is actually better than The Rise of Skywalker. I hate that movie so much. All right, what's next?
Okay, Mike Halsey with a $50 tip.
Oh my God, Mike, thank you so
Says-
much, man. I appreciate that. Thank you for sponsoring us on that level, dude.
Says, hi, John and crew. Yesterday, you were saying how much you were looking forward to seeing Aaron Taylor Johnson in
Yeah,
Kraven
Ricky
the
Tiki
Hunter.
Tacky.
Yeah, Ricky Tiki Tacky is what, actually, I don't know if it's Aaron Taylor. What is that? His name also keeps coming up as possibly the next James Bond. What's your view of this, as I'd certainly be happy with it?
Not my first choice, but I think Aaron Taylor Johnson is a tremendous actor. I love him, even in movies that I don't think are good. I love him in them. He's got great physicality. He's a tremendous actor. He's the right age. He could be your James Bond for a while. Because what is he? Did he just turn 40 or something like that? Can you look up Aaron Taylor Johnson's age?
I just got this image of him saying, Ricky Tiki Tacky.
Ricky Tiki Tacky.
34.
So he's not even 40.
Yeah,
He's super. He's totally the right age.
Yeah.
So are there others I would pick ahead of him? Sure. But if he was announced tomorrow as the new James Bond, would I be happy about it? Absolutely. 100% I'd be happy with it. He's a wonderful actor. So he would be a great James Bond, I think. I don't think he will be James Bond, but if he is, I would love it. All right. Thank you again, man, for supporting us on that level. That's incredibly generous of you, dude. All right. What's next?
Dad Joke says, hi, John, can you do a detailed editorial video on why there are significant gaps in time between streaming show seasons compared to shows from the 80s, 90s, which were every year? What's causing this? What is different and now compared to back then?
I couldn't possibly, because I don't know what the fuck they're doing. I really don't. I mean, there's some general principles we talk about, right? Is that streaming is done different than cable, so they don't even know, they don't commit to doing a second or third season. till other people already book things and it has to happen later. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different reasons, but I couldn't do a detailed explainer video on it because I quite frankly am a little bit in the mist about it myself.
And it's not 80s and 90s. It's not 80s and 90s because Game of Thrones did it every year.
Yep. Game of Thrones came out every year, man. So did frickin' Breaking Bad. So yeah, I mean, just until they had that one with the massive mid-season break.
Well, yeah, but
all right, what's next?
Vidora says, what brings the Avengers together to take down Doctor Doom? Imagine Doom kills old man Cap.
I don't think killing somebody that a lot of people in the world already thinks is gone and dead would be that much of an impetus to drive the story forward. I
What
think
if
it'd
he
have to be
kills
something
Kenny?
a little- what's that?
What if he kills Kenny?
You bastard! They killed Kenny. All right, what's next?
Bree Guy says, hey, John, this recommendation is just for you, my friend. Look up John Loves the Terminal. I even added the John Williams score. Enjoy.
Oh no.
I think I'll skip that one.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
All right, Brandon says, not sure if you ever kept up
One
with...
of two.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you kept up with the It Ends With Us drama. People are upset because it's about domestic violence, but the marketing and Blake Lively were seemingly pulled the focus away from that and misled audience into the nature of the film. Apparently, a number of domestic violence survivors came out of the film crying because they didn't know that what they were getting into. Did they have a moral responsibility to lean into this in the promotional interviews, or is this just an overreaction? I haven't seen the trailer. I couldn't say.
Okay. I have not heard any of this controversy.
Me either.
All right. Just let me be clear. So no disrespect intended to anybody. But I'm an idiot. And I knew the first time we talked about the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I knew when I saw the trailer, like, oh, this movie's about domestic abuse. It's pretty much as clear as the sun in the sky. Like, how do you watch this trailer and not understand it's about domestic abuse?
Or maybe they didn't. Maybe people are just filling in the blanks and saying, well, because of the trailer. Maybe they didn't even watch the trailer. In which case, it's like, well,
yeah, because I mean, maybe the posters don't give away that it's about domestic abuse. Oh, okay. But again, as an idiot, even I saw that trailer and instantly I can recognize, and we talked about it on the show when it came out. Oh yeah, this movie's clearly about domestic abuse. Listen, all due respect to anybody who like has a history with that and then went into the movie and not realizing that was about, and maybe it did, it was very emotionally disturbing to you. All due respect. But I don't think there is any argument you can make that a rational person watched that trailer and didn't understand one of the core elements of that movie was this woman who got herself into an abusive relationship. Even I figured that out watching it. And if I figured it out, I think anybody can. All right. What's next?
we got, first off, I just want to say we got 5 gifted memberships from Mike Suey.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
Also,
did I catch that somebody else put in a whole ton of them?
I can't remember. I think it was a Blake somebody, and they gave like 35.
Oh, my God. Thank you so much, guys. That's incredibly generous of you. Thank you.
So anyway, Shikster says, I'm your vintage, John. I think that's like parking the shuttlecraft in the same shuttle bay. Growing up, connected movies were every 3 years. Given modern big budgets on streaming shows, are or should seasons be looked at like movies of old? Every 3 years equals treat them like trilogies versus seasons. Sucks, but resign to that view.
No. It should, look, movies are movies. TV is TV. If you're going to do a TV show, do a TV show. Have a new season every year. If you're going to be lazy and change it from 22 episodes a year, like all shows used to do, all shows used to do like 20-something episodes a year and have a new season every single year. You're going to cut that back to 8 episodes? You got no excuse. There's no excuse. So, no, it shouldn't be done that way. They should get back to having these seasons come out once a year. All right, what's next?
Bry Guy says, my take on an animated Winnie the Pooh adaptation, Tom Hiddleston as the voice of Pooh, Tom Holland as Piglet. Hugh Grant as Owl, Simu Liu as Rabbit, Lupita Nyong'o as Conga, Giancarlo Esposito as Eeyore, and
Oh, God.
Margot Robbie as a female version of Tigger. Cute, but the story would have to still be good.
I don't see any of those. To be honest with you, I don't at all see any. How
I don't
about
know
this?
about Giancarlo as Eeyore.
How about this? How about going out and getting great voice actors?
Nah.
How about that?
Let's blow our budget and just get the highest
Instead
paid
of getting
actors.
people who don't have the best voice for it just because they're famous, how about getting actual voice actors?
I think we should.
Just a crazy thought. Just a
I
crazy
think we
thought.
should pay $15 million each for each voice actor and just increase the budget.
All right, what's next?
Michael Thompson says, "Hey, John, I know you're retiring. That sucks. I've been a fan since your AMC days. I just want to let Ray and Jonathan know if they want to do a Ray and or Jonathan Voico show. I think there's an audience, myself included. Well, you and 9 other people. But thank you. Thank you for your support.
I know. Maybe I should take next week off and just leave the ship to you guys.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Well, yeah. I no.
Ray's like, nah.
Just let me be clear.
Ray's getting an Airbnb next week.
If these guys do the show themselves next week, I am not legally liable for anything they do or say on the show. Let me
that's
just
true.
make that clear right now.
That's true.
All right, what's next?
Wes Maurer says, hey, John, just wanted to know what you think if Kevin Feige had Bryan Singer direct the next X-Men movie, since he directed the best 3 of the old X-Men movies, or do you think a new version needs a fresh take?
Well, let's not pretend that getting Bryan Singer doesn't come along with its own unique set of baggage. All right? Listen, Bryan Singer is a great director. I mean, nobody talks about it, but that Freddie Mercury movie, Bohemian Rhapsody, he directed that movie. That's his movie.
Oh, yeah.
And it's great. He directed X-Men 1, X-Men 2, which is one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. But let's not pretend that there isn't, and we're not going to go into it now.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend there isn't significant baggage that comes along with the name of Bryan Singer right now either. I'm not judging anybody. I'm not making any proclamations of guilt or not. I'm just saying there is baggage that comes along with that, and I don't think Kevin Feige wants any part of that. All right, what's next?
All right. Angel says, on Tuesday, Logan Vaughn asked if Pablo Hidalgo was still with Star Wars. Today, a friend invited me to a screening of Alien Romulus at Lucasfilm in San Francisco. It's really cool. And Pablo shared our elevator.
Oh,
so
nice.
yes, he is. We asked if he was catching Alien with us. He said, hell yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was still there. I never heard anything about him leaving before, so I was kind of assumed he was still there, but I didn't know that for sure. Thank you for the update on that. We appreciate that.
Nice.
All right, what's next?
AVP Lover says, I'm guessing that's Alien versus Predator Lover. I don't care what anybody says. 04's Alien versus Predator is the funnest and cheesiest hamburger of a movie out of the entire series with extra bacon. It's the first movie that I saw as a young kid, and it introduced me to the 2 iconic creatures. Guilty pleasure. That's an interesting first movie.
That's the one with Adrian Brody, right?
No, that's Predators.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's Predators.
Alien versus Predator had that one scene where the Predator slices the alien in half. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, Paul W.S. Anderson directed that. Listen, you know what? I bag on the movie sometimes, maybe a lot of times. I'll say this. There is fun to be had. In both, actually, Alien versus Predator, and what was the following one called? Alien versus Predator Requiem?
Yeah, it is Requiem.
You know what? Look, I'm not going to sit here and say there were good movies, but there was fun to be had in those. Like, if you went in with the right attitude and in the right frame of mind, there's fun to be had with those movies. I'll say that.
I wasn't offended by him. I don't count them as being part of like either the Predator or the Alien, like Aliens, Alien 3, whatever franchise. I feel like they took those 2 IPs and they made like an Elseworlds type of thing with that.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
We got Julia who says, as a lawyer, John, is there a celebrity lawsuit or case you wish you were fly on the wall on or wish you led because the case got screwed up so badly?
I really don't care about celebrity lawsuits unless it directly is impacting a specific movie that we are waiting for or wanting to see. I have never cared about celebrity lawsuits. I really, really don't. I mean, like, the only celebrity lawsuit recently that I was marginally interested in because it had a direct impact on the movie business was when Scarlett Johansson was suing Disney because Bob Chapek broke her contract, because in her contract, Black Widow was supposed to go to theaters, and a big portion of her payment was supposed to come as points off of box office. Bob Chapek broke that, put it, onto Disney Plus. She lost out on all that money. She said, "You screwed me, gonna sue you." Eventually they had to settle, cut her a big check. But again, that had, pardon me, that had a lot of direct implications on that kind of stuff. Raider of Steak is saying the Rust stuff too. That's not a celebrity lawsuit. That was actually a criminal proceeding. A criminal proceeding is actually very, very different from like celebrity lawsuits. So generally speaking, I don't really care about the lawsuit stuff. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, just finished the 2003 Battlestar Galactica miniseries for the first time, and wow, I'm hooked for the rest. Truly love the character story so far. Do you think, how did that show impact sci-fi TV and film? What director would be your choice to make a BSG verse film?
I never care. Ex-director and ex-movie, I never care. Just make sure it's a good director. That's all I care about. It is hilarious. So you talk to a lot of sci-fi filmmakers, writers, directors today. They all love Ronald Moore's Battlestar Galactica. It is my number one. I think it is the number one greatest TV show of all time. I think it's one of the smartest in terms of mythology, sci-fi. I think it's just the greatest show ever made. And it's just absolutely incredible. As far as who to direct it today, just as long as it's a good director. Now there is buzz going around that they're supposed to be doing a reboot of it. But I mean, that's been reported 7 or 8 times over the last few years. So whether it ever happens, I'm not sure. But yeah, Battlestar Galactica, man, it's the best thing ever. It's just the best thing ever. All right, what's next?
Dennis the Phantom Menace says, hey, John and wonderful crew, you all are like family to me.
Oh, thank you, man.
Question, do you ever see Kevin Feige and Marvel adapting the Dark Avengers storyline? Will we ever see Dark Avengers? Thoughts?
Nah. I mean, look, if you're asking ever's a long time, so anything can happen, right? But do I think they have any plans for that? So for those of you who don't know, Dark Avengers, it happens like around the events of like Secret Invasion, like with Skrulls and stuff like that. Basically, Norman Osborn.
It's the Siege. I think the Siege.
Is that the Siege that it was? Norman Osborn confiscates one of Tony Stark's after he gets fired as the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., gets one of Tony Stark's Iron Man outfits, paints it blue and white, and he becomes the Iron Patriot.
Right.
Then he had like Sentry was on there. Bullseye dressed up as the new Hawkeye.
Right. Dakin, who's Wolverine's son, was Wolverine.
That's right.
And,
Yeah. Nah. I don't. Again, when you say ever, the answer to any question that has the word ever in it is yes, because it could. But I don't think there's any plans for them to do that.
He was already
way down the line.
He was already leading Thunderbolts before that happened, and we're getting Thunderbolts now.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
All right. What's next?
All right. Ray Loves Trenchcoat says, saw Strand Darling last night, going to see my penguin friend, Skincare, and Alien tonight. Like, love movies, I think.
I am very interested in my penguin friend.
I know.
And
it's so cute.
When we wrap up, because we're going to have to wrap up here soon. When we wrap up today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, that's where we're going. Because it's game day.
Game day.
We're going to see Alien Romulus. As soon as we're done the show here, I'm very, very excited about it.
I got tickets today, too, at the MC16.
Oh, you're going to see it tonight?
Today.
Excellent.
Yeah.
This is going to be one of the first times in a while that you see it the same day we do.
I know. It's crazy.
All right. What's next?
The Watcher says, RDJ Doom explanation. What if an alternate universe Tony Stark's parents die when he's only a few months old, having no other family, he's taken by Anton Vanko, and then ultimately adopted by the wealthy Von Doom family?
I've brought that up before. Now, whether it's, as a child, his parents die instead of much later in life, and he gets taken in by a distant uncle of his, kind of like the opening of Braveheart. Remember? I'm your uncle, Argyle.
Yeah.
And he goes off. So, like, maybe his parents die really young. He goes off to live with distant relatives in Latveria and becomes that. Or, his great-great-grandparents never immigrated from Latveria. Instead, they stayed where they were and they kept their family name on it. Look, there's a lot of different possibilities, but that's absolutely one of them and one that I've brought up before. All right, what's next?
James LH says, John, you were asked about a score you liked for a movie you don't like. You couldn't think of one, so I have an answer for you. Phantom Menace, Duel of Fate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Or any Star Wars movie you didn't like that John Williams did score for.
Yeah, listen, there are a couple of things that I will always defend about the prequels. And I hate the prequels, but there are a number of things I'll always defend them. Number one, the entire pod race sequence. Amazing. I contend the best sound designed scene in the history of film. I will always defend, obviously, the Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Darth Maul lightsaber fight. I will always defend all of the Yoda lightsaber fights. I mean, I know people who love the prequel movies for some reason, but they hate those Yoda lightsaber fights. I hate the prequel movies, and I think the Yoda lightsaber fights are boss.
Oh, I actually thought the Book of Boba Fett theme song was actually, if you guys remember it.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was whatever.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was great, but Boba Fett turned out.
I'm trying to remember, how did that go? Like, it's
Don't
a lot
they
of
say
voices.
Boba in it?
No, I'm not talking about when they had that episode where they were doing the little dance and they were.
No, but it's
the
like
little-
that.
The
I'm
actual
talking about
theme
the
song.
actual. It would come in hard. I think.
It's
It's
like
like,
Huh,
like
huh.
yeah.
Boom, boom, boom,
That theme song was really good to me. Actually.
Da-da-da-da. That's a lot of male voices. Yeah. But what, getting back to the Star Wars thing, Duel of the Fates is probably the best thing that came out of the prequels. Duel of the Fates is, other than the Imperial March, I think it's my favorite piece of Star Wars music. It's just so grand and so epic and so powerful. I love that so much. All right, what's next?
All right. Tickle says, I recently read Project Hail Mary, and OMG, y'all are in for a treat with the adaptation. It's like you say about Ted Lasso. It's a story about good people working together and doing good things. Gosling and Lord and Miller couldn't be more perfect for this film.
Is that the same guy who did
Martian.
Martian? That's the same, from the same writer. Did
I
you
have
read
that
it?
book. I have that book. I'm on chapter 2, but ever since I stopped writing the Metrolink to work, I haven't touched it. So I need to find it and actually continue it, because from what I was reading, it was actually like The Martian. It hooks you in right away. I just put it down because I stopped traveling. So,
Like 4 years ago.
I know, but I have read the first chapters, but haven't finished it.
All right.
All right, what's next?
Ghazi says, hello, John. I've been watching Banshee with Anthony Starr and with the boys. What a great actor. I feel he needs more recognition. I want to see him in big movie roles.
Yeah, that's, pardon me, I've had a few people tell me about, that's a BBC show, right?
That I'm not sure I've heard of it, but I don't know where it's from.
Yeah, I know nothing about the show. I just keep hearing, oh, John, if you like Anthony Starr, you should see Banshee. I know nothing about the show. One of these days, I'll probably have to sit down.
Wait,
By
is
the way,
Anthony Starr British?
I think he's British.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong about that. By the way, complete side note. So last night, Anne and your other sister, Ray.
It's at Cinemax, Banshee.
Oh, Cinemax?
Yeah.
Anne and her sister and Ray's other sister,
Oh, he's Australian.
Olive,
Uh-huh.
they went to Anaheim Angels game last night. They were playing the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah.
So I had a little time at home to myself. So as I was sitting with the dogs, I don't know why. You know what it was? In my YouTube feed, a clip from House MD came
Uh-huh.
up. I've never watched House.
Oh, yeah, I think you'd really like House.
I watched a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, I think you'd really like House.
I really enjoyed it. I
Yeah,
thought
that
it
was
was
a
great. Now I know what
popular
everybody's
show when it was
talking
out.
about it. What's that?
Well, that was a popular show when it was out.
Yeah,
People used to
and
talk
I
about it.
never saw it.
Who's the lead in that? I forgot his name.
Hugh Laurie?
Yeah, Hugh Laurie.
Hugh
Okay,
Laurie,
okay.
who's great. Yeah.
Oh, and people are saying that the actor is from New Zealand.
Okay.
Anthony.
Carlos says, hey guys, saw Twisters last month and liked it a lot. I love the country music in it. I ordered the album in vinyl. Wow.
Heck yeah.
Also, I read Helen Hunt wasn't in the movie due to them wanting to go in a different direction in the story. Well, it makes sense.
Well, I mean, that's the ultimate reason why you should or should not have somebody in your movie is, did it make sense for the story?
Can I say about Twisters? The quote in the Twisters
Yeah.
is become a horrible thing for a lot of us here. Or
What are you talking about?
At least for me, because I always say it when I go to the casino.
If you feel it,
If you
If you feel it,
ride it.
chase it.
I'm always going to say ride it.
Yeah,
just so you
because
know.
that's also in the trailer. Listen, you listen to my playlists, I got everything in there. I got metal, I got hip hop, I got classical. I mean, I literally have, like, if you're riding in the car with me, I'll have Andre Bocelli and then Rob Zombie as the next song. Like I just, the one thing I do not
A lot of ups and downs here.
have in my playlist
Little Dirk.
is country music.
Oh, you should have.
Again,
Little
no disrespect to anybody who's into country music whatsoever, but country music is just one of the things I don't get, and that's fine. There's a lot of things I like that other people don't get. That's okay. But I love this quote. This came up again after he passed away. This great quote from Bob Newhart. I don't like country music, but I don't mean to denigrate those who do. And for the people who like country music, denigrate means put down.
I can see him adjusting his glasses, have a little beat, and then deliver the line.
He was such gold, man. He was such gold. All right. What's next?
All right. Gone with the Cheddar says,
Cheddar.
given that Destin Cretton is directing the live action Naruto film,
By the way, I'll believe that when I see it.
Yeah. I highly recommend you give the anime a shot. The original creator, like you, was a theologian who spent his free time in libraries reading about religions around the world. Part 2 says these religions like Christianity, Shintoism, Hinduism, Taoism make their mark on the show. It is the Avatar, The Last Airbender that came out before Avatar, The Last Airbender was around.
I'm just going to give a quick tip to everybody. Don't waste your time writing into me telling me about an anime you think I should watch. I'm not an anime guy. Now, of course, there are some classic animes that I absolutely love. 100% there are. A lot of the Miyazaki stuff, clearly, and everything. But especially when it comes to shows, I'm not an anime guy. And I'm not saying other people shouldn't be. I'm not putting down anime. Not at all. It's just not for me. That's all. Just not for me. So probably nothing. Now, there was something else they said that. What was that? Oh, yeah. As far as the movie getting done by Destin, I'll believe it when I see it, because he's still got to do Shang-Chi too. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. What's next?
Dennis says, I'm super excited for Avengers Doomsday, and I think casting RDJ as Doom opens some very interesting possibilities. However, we still don't know who the Avengers even are right now, and the ones we think are not exciting. Should we be concerned?
No. I mean, listen, we still got years before Avengers Doomsday. We got 3 full movies and like 4 TV shows coming out before Avengers Doomsday. It is weird that we're this far into this phase of the MCU and we have no idea who's, I mean, technically speaking, right now in the MCU, the Avengers are not, there is no Avengers right now.
Yeah, but they've also addressed that. They've said there isn't.
Like Harrison Ford says to Sam in the clip they showed us at CinemaCon, I want you to help me to put the Avengers back together. So like right now there are no, but I'm sure that's something that's going to get addressed. And by the way, remember, before the first Avengers movie, there was no Avengers. They literally got put together in the movie. And that could very well happen here too.
Do you think that we could consider them just not the Avengers when they do pick a team? They're like the new Avengers.
They're going to be the Avengers.
Would they be called the new Avengers? We consider them the new Avengers since they're not the original team?
Nope, just consider them
Oh, man.
that, or they could call it the Revengers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's
the
a good one, led by
Revengers.
Thor.
All right, what's next?
Disinformation Killer says, in case people were wondering about Rob's project, True Noir, Brandon Rowe interviewed him at SDCC. On the video, Rob explains in detail how time-consuming it is and says he will return to the show when it's finished. Brandon also interviewed Chris Carr. It's a very time-consuming situation, and it's something that's blossomed into like this just big project.
Yeah, look, we explained it 100 times on the show. Like the reason Rob is not here is because he's doing this really big audio drama called True Noir. We've told you about it. We've encouraged you to go find the Kickstarter, contribute to it, all that kind of stuff. But it is an all-consuming project. And listen, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I straight up hope Rob never comes back. I hope that this thing is so successful that it opens up 5 other doors, and this becomes what takes actually producing, creating this content becomes his all-consuming thing. Now, if that doesn't happen, I mean, whatever, but he'll be back when this is done. And I can't give you a timeline because it's a big, big, big project for him. All right, what's next?
Okay, we're going on to members. By the way, we have 43 new members.
Oh my God. Thank you to everybody who, especially, what was the name of the person? Bettler or?
Well, there was 2. I think Brandon, and then I forget the other one. Justin. It was Justin.
Yeah, it wasn't Brandon. It was like Brantley. Brantley was the person who did. So thank you so much to everybody for giving those memberships.
And
That's
then
amazing.
another
Thank you
person
guys.
gave 5 too, but I can't remember the name. Sorry, guys.
All right,
All
what's
right,
next?
Real life entertainment. Hey, crew, who are some movie film characters you would like to play a game of D&D with? Some of mine would be Peter Parker, Billy Butcher. Billy Butcher might be fun. Hermione Granger, and the one true queen, Rhaenyra Targaryen.
Are you saying like
If you
play
could
a
play
game
D&D
with them?
yeah.
Um,
I'd like to play with Chris Pine's character from Dungeons and Dragons.
I'll the kids in Stranger Things
There you go.
because they actually know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that's who I would go with the kids from Stranger Things.
You
'cause
actually
they
just got your
know how
whole
to play.
crew right there. You're
Yep,
set.
I got the whole game right there, all set, ready to go.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
All right. Sorry. Dal official, with Venom 3 being the final one and Craven coming out soon, how do you think Sony will continue its Spider-Man character universe besides Into the Spider-Verse films? Do you think they'll make a bigger deal with Marvel for them to use more characters in future Spider-Man projects? I think it'd be the opposite.
I think they have all the characters already.
Yeah.
They have all the characters.
I'm just waiting for the next Hammerhead movie.
Almost all the characters. I really don't know.
Yep.
And listen, we got to see how Venom 3 and Craven turn out.
Yeah.
Because listen, I believe in Venom 3. I do. I cautiously, modestly believe in Craven. Because it ain't the guys who wrote Morbius and Madam Web. But let's say Venom 3 and Craven. Again, Morbius and Madam Web were written by the same guys. And they're not the ones writing these. Still, if Venom 3 and Craven end up being the next Morbius and Madam Web, I honestly think Sony just wraps it up. I don't think they do anymore. I think they'll stick with the animated stuff and they'll just call it a day. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think Venom 3 will be good, and I have some hope for Craven. I really do. All right, what's next?
King Daddy Goat says, "Hey, John and crew, hope all is well today. I watched the series finale of Umbrella Academy over the past weekend and was highly underwhelmed by its ending. Did you guys check it out yet? I haven't even started Umbrella Academy.
I love Umbrella Academy passionately. Speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, I also play the Star Wars role play, the West End game Star Wars role playing game. And one of the guys in my Star Wars role playing game, you were in it, Jonathan.
I was in that.
Is one of the producers of Umbrella Academy. Is actually in our Star Wars role playing game group. And I love the show.
I think he was a Wookiee.
He was a Wookiee. He played a Wookiee character. But I haven't watched the 4th season yet because I've heard the same thing from everybody. I've heard it's not good. And I might skip it. I might just want to leave loving 1, 2, and 3 as the last thing in my memory with that. I mean, at some point I probably will watch it, but everybody I'm hearing from about season 4 is that they did not stick the landing. So I might actually just skip it. I don't know. We'll see. All right. What's next?
Okay. Z Thomas says, I just saw that the voice of Indian Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse films gave an update on production. Do you think this movie will really make a 2025 window? We were supposed to have the movie by now.
Since I don't know where they're at, it's hard to say whether I think, I can tell you, I do not believe that Blade is going to make November 2025 because we know where they're at. They don't even have a director.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way they make November 2025. But I have no idea where they're at in this stage of production with the next Spider-Verse film. So I honestly can't say whether I think they'll make it doesn't feel like they will, but maybe they do. We'll find out. All right, last question of the day because we got to get ready to go.
Okay.
What's next?
Joe Howland says, hey, John and crew, game day, baby.
Game day.
On my way to see it at 3 today. I'm excited for this all year, and I'm going to see it on Saturday at the drive-in where it's playing with Deadpool.
Oh,
wow.
nice double feature.
How cool. My question is, how much more do you think Alien Romulus makes in the theatrical run or even opening weekend? I looked at least in Burbank, the premium screens are all filled for a lot of times.
The projection is $50 million opening weekend.
Which is great.
I would say 375. I'm going to guess a final world. Now, again, I reserve the right to change that guess after I see the movie. Because if I love it, I might go higher. But I'll say right now, 375. 375. 375 worldwide. But hopefully it'll be much bigger than that. And we'll see. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making this little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. And those couple of you guys who gifted memberships.
Yeah,
That's incredibly
for sure,
great of you.
man.
But to
Thank
all
you.
of you guys who sent in questions, number one, because you gave us fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. I want to thank the people in the room with me.
See you tomorrow.
Ray, who apparently is stopping off at Applebee's. Jonathan Boyko.
See you guys.
My name's John Campea. And until next time, my friends,